Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if it's a good topic, but I have a tendency to attract those cluster B personalities, like narcissists and borderline. And it's kind of challenging for me. It's mostly in the love, so it's a male kind
Yeah.
of person.
Yeah.
And it's wearing me out to have the same pattern repeating all over again all the time. Crazy behavior. Is there something I can be uh
More aware of.
aware of?
There's a big topic because there's a lot of things in that topic. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to say is we currently live in a society where there's a lot of narcissists, okay? It's been entrained and ingrained into our personality, into our humanness currently, with the way that everything has been unfolding in this world. Okay, so attracting narcissists into your life is or experiencing narcissistic people is not uncommon. Okay, maybe you could even say it can be difficult to find many people who do not have narcissistic traits, because it's an avoidance of yourself and an avoidance of others. It's a disconnection from yourself and others. It's a lack of empathy because you're disconnected from yourself. It's a lack of understanding, and it's mostly again traumatized beings, humans. Okay. So that's the first thing to remember. The second thing to remember is the narcissist doesn't understand that he's doing something wrong. And when it understands that it's done something wrong, do you know what it does? It
No.
deletes. Delete.
Yeah.
Because a narcissist is not connected to himself, okay? And he's not connected to his feelings. And so it's really difficult for a narcissist to see clearly himself and to have empathy and to understand you. And of course, it depends on the degree of narcissism, because you can have someone who has narcissistic traits, and then you can have like a super narcissistic sociopath, okay? And there's a big difference between the two, okay? But it's carelessness, it's a lot of carelessness, and it's a lot of disconnection. So firstly, we can always look at, okay, where am I narcissistic within myself? You know, where am I cut off from myself? Where do I lack care or empathy for others? All these types of questions. Look at the list of narcissistic traits and go through them and be honest with yourself and say, where am I narcissistic towards myself or towards others? That's the first thing. Second thing we want to look at when we attract narcissists into our life is our parents. Because if you're a woman, for example, who are attracting narcissistic men, you most likely had a narcissistic father and potentially even a narcissistic mother. And, well, it's your inner healing. Because when dealing with a narcissist, you have to look at what is it making you feel, okay? I'm not worthy, right? He doesn't see my value, right? He doesn't listen to me. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't respect me. That's a big one, right? Respect. Especially for women who have been abused sexually or physically, it's very easy to attract narcissistic partners. Because again, you were so greatly disrespected and disregarded as a child that when you that you have those patterns within you and you're reliving them again because you're not finding the solutions. And working those kinks out within yourself is not something that just takes, a few days or a few sessions or something like this. It's a very deep wound. It's a very deep wound to be a codependent female in a narcissistic relationship. And the codependency also makes you easily manipulative, and it's hard to get away. It can be hard to get away from these people also. And these people, if it's a real classified narcissist, it can be even slightly dangerous to get away from them, because they can be abusive and they tend to need to have a lot of control over you and the situation. And if they don't have that and they cannot control you, then they can even start to try and control things around you or the people around you, right? So a narcissist might go around to people and say that you are a narcissist, right? Especially if you have called him a narcissist. If you have called him a narcissist, or pointed out the fact that he was narcissistic, then there's this big likelihood that he's going to call you a narcissist to other people, or just even to himself. And so it can potentially also be challenging, not just in the personal relationship, but also around. And so take precautions when you meet someone, and don't let them into your life too quickly. Don't let them into your internal and external life too quickly, because one thing with narcissists is you can have a really special time the first week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or month where you're just dancing on pink clouds and everything is amazing, and that's what they call love bombing, where this person bombs you with love, just gives you presents, tells you how beautiful you are, and you just have this amazing time. That's when you make the attachment. That's when you start to get attached. And if you're codependent, if you're a female who's very sensitive or damaged, traumatized from life, had bad parenting and all these things, it's very easy to attach to someone. And as humans suffering from loneliness and isolation, which we all do, even when we're surrounded by people all the time, collectively we're struggling a lot with this loneliness and isolation and separation theme. So it can be really easy to attach yourself to one of these beings, to a narcissist. And so I would say the precautions with it are, firstly, if you know you have a tendency to attract narcissistic partners, if you know that you have these codependent issues, when these people come into your life, don't jump in too quickly. That's a good way to protect yourself from the narcissist, especially when we're dealing with these types of people who might go around talking about you behind your back. If he doesn't get what he wants from you, he might start to try and manipulate and dominate and control you and even the situation or the people around you. And so you want to, it can be easy for the codependents to jump in too quickly, basically, and to fall for the love bombing part. And in that moment forget, okay, but in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year, he's not going to be like this. This is just his best self that I'm experiencing right now. This is his best self. This is him on cloud 9 with me. But he's not going to be on cloud 9 the rest of your life. He's not going to be on cloud 9 likely in 6 to 8 months or a year. And so, firstly, don't attach yourself to someone before you've gotten to know them, and that can take a year or 2 or 3 or 5. And so work out what is it that's making me attached to this situation or to this person, and what is it that's making it hard for me to walk away the moment that I realize, okay, this man is psychologically abusive, this man is physically abusive, this man is not good for me. What is it that's keeping me locked into this situation right now? That's the second thing. So firstly, protect yourself, in the sense, don't jump in too quickly. Secondly, if you're already in it and you realize, okay, this is not good news for me and for my future, for my life, this is not what I asked for, ask yourself why you're not walking away. What's keeping you attached? What's making you stay there? What's making you codependent, which is usually a fear of being alone. There can also sometimes be a fear that that you're wrong. Sometimes with victims of narcissistic abuse and narcissists, they have a tendency to turn everything over on you. So if you confront them with the issue, I think you're emotionally abusive or you're violent, they're going to twist and turn that gaslighting and put it on you and make it seem like it's your fault. And so you need to be able to see clearly in such a situation, right? Because if you buy into the idea that it's your fault and you start feeling guilt because maybe he was violent with you and he made you believe it was your fault because you did this, you said that, you shouldn't have done this, you pushed me over the edge and you started it, blah, 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 for example. That's a very typical narcissism thing to do. They basically paint a picture. This is how it is. Anything that doesn't fit into that picture, do you know what they do? Delete. It doesn't exist. Oh, there you go. Okay. And so that's very important to understand that he doesn't always do it intentionally. Okay. These are all mechanisms. And when we were talking earlier about this fight or flight mode, that's it. Again, there's mechanisms. There's not consciousness. There's just mechanisms that are going and going and going. And there's not consciousness in many of the narcissistic reactions, in many of the narcissistic themes. So make sure that you stay clear-headed in your relationships, that you don't fall for the bullshit that says it's your fault. It's your fault that I emotionally abused you. It's your fault that I hit you. It's your fault that I cheated on you. All these things, okay? So to see clearly in those types of relationships so that you're not getting, so that your reality is not being obscured and that you're not being gaslighted, because that can also keep you in the relationship. If you think that, oh, this man is so good, and I'm the one making the mistakes because I'm too needy. Jeg brokker mig for meget. You know, I have too many complaints. I'm on, what is it? One that I've heard a lot from narcissists is you're unappreciative, you know? You don't appreciate, but they're the ones who don't have any appreciation, right? They want you to appreciate them, but they don't appreciate you. And a lot of the time you're giving to them a lot more than what they're giving to you. And you are appreciating them and they're not appreciating you, but they're like, no, you don't appreciate me. You don't appreciate what I do for you. You're so, du er så utaknemmelig. Ikke? You, all these gaslighting things that they twist around to control you, manipulate you, dominate you, and to not be wrong. You know, they don't want to be wrong, to be right all the time. They don't want to seem weak, okay? But we have to remember narcissistic people are very damaged people. So try and get out of the situation the moment you realize that you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship and it has crossed the line a few times too many. Get out. If you cannot get out, why? What's keeping you stuck in this relationship? Shift on that, work on that, use the therapeutic techniques that you're going to be getting in this online course. Use those techniques to work through those blockages that are keeping you in that connection. And lastly, how do I stop attracting these men? And that's the more challenging part, because there are not many men out there who don't have narcissistic traits. So you just have to look up at, okay, is he a narcissistic sociopath? Is he physically, emotionally, mentally violent? Is he delusional about himself or about me or about this relationship to the point where I'm just pulling my hair out because he just doesn't listen, he just doesn't understand. We can have the same conversation 20 times, 50 times, and he still doesn't get it. We can have a conversation yesterday, and we can have the same conversation today, exactly the same conversation, but he acts like we never had that conversation. He acts like He doesn't know what I'm talking about. And I've never said this before, except we had the same conversation yesterday. And we had actually the same conversation like a week ago. And we had actually the same conversation like a month ago, you know. And he can sit there like, because again, that conversation, here's his picture of life, of himself, and of the relationship. And what you said yesterday and last week and the month before, it doesn't fit into my picture. And so I just deleted it. You know, I didn't go into it. I didn't acknowledge it. I think it's a bullshit. I think you're just crazy. And that's where it gets really difficult to solve, you know. So find out, is it a narcissist who's willing to work with himself, who's willing to solve these things, who maybe doesn't appreciate the fact to be called a narcissist, because maybe he's not a narcissist. He's just a man who has narcissistic traits like most people do in this world. Or is he a sociopathic narcissist where you're never going to get anywhere, okay? If within the first few months that you're experiencing the scenarios that I've been talking about, then you should probably just give up and walk away. But more importantly, you have to work on what's attracting these men, okay? Because again, like you said, you could just continue. It's a new man with the same pattern. New face, same pattern, right? Same thing over and over and over again. That is trying to tell you something. You know, what is that trying to tell you? You don't feel good enough to receive love and respect. Your parents have conditioned you, conditional love, okay? And so they've made you believe that unconsciously, because it wasn't your parents' intention to make you believe that you were not worthy, okay? I don't think it was any parent ever intention to make us feel like we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we don't deserve love, we don't deserve respect, we're not important in life. They don't want us here. They wish we were never born, you know, depending on how bad it gets. No parent, I don't think no parent intentionally, if you catch them in a moment where they're a little introspective, catch them in the moment where they're sitting by the beach, having a drink, relaxing, sitting at home on the couch, just being peaceful. If you've had a conversation with any parent in the existence of this world, I think very few of them would actually tell you, yes, 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 it was my intention to make that child of mine feel like a piece of shit. It was my intention to make that child traumatized. It was my intention to make that child feel like it's not respected, it's not loved. I don't love that child. I don't want that child. Obviously, it wasn't our parents' intentions to make us feel bad about ourselves and to create a life for ourselves where we suffer narcissistic abuse, for example. But nonetheless, it happens for most of us in this current time, day and age, in this current society. It happened for most of us that we had narcissistic parents. Some very narcissistic, some just a little, which affected us in a not so nice way. But it doesn't make it true, first of all, because we have to remember it's our parents, okay? It's our parents who had issues. And it was our parents who were also abused, okay? Our parents were also abused by narcissists. They were also taught all these patterns, okay? These patterns are going in the whole collective. And so we have to remember and understand that we are worthy of love and we are worthy of all these things. And the only reason we're not getting it is because we are not allowing it. We're not allowing it. And that's firstly with your relationship through yourself. Your opinions of yourself, your relationship to yourself. So for example, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you're all the time criticizing yourself, if you're all the time picking away at all the things that could be better, then you could imagine it like this big sign on your forehead that says, I'm not good enough and I don't deserve respect. So even if even if it's not actually written physically, other people pick up on that in your vibration. Okay? And so really, when we're attracting narcissists, boundary setting, okay, it's a really difficult thing for people who are codependent. Setting boundaries, saying no, especially with narcissists, because they don't respect boundaries. So if you say, okay, here's my boundary, a lot of narcissists will say, what do you mean? Don't be so silly. Don't be so, don't be so immature, childish. Don't be so sensitive. That's a good one. Don't be so sensitive, Oh, it's not that serious. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill, because again, they're disconnected from themselves. They're disconnected from their feelings and emotions, okay? It's really just about your relationship to yourself. And it's also about the societal conditioning. And so our whole collective needs to relearn how to treat each other, how to treat ourselves. And so it's difficult to not find people who don't have narcissistic traits. But there's a difference between someone who's abusive and who doesn't give a shit, and someone who has some traits that he maybe knows are not helping him or helping you or helping the relationship. But most of all, that was important, boundary setting, right? That was where we came from. Being strong enough to put the boundaries and being strong enough to walk away, okay? When dealing with abusive partners, I would say don't forget to walk away before it's too late, before you get too intertwined into that connection. So, for example, I had abusive parents as a child, and I had narcissistic parents as a child, and I suffered a lot of abuse as a child. And when I was about 18, I had a boyfriend. And I hadn't had any violent boyfriends, but this boyfriend, I found out after about 1-2 months that he was kind of abusive and that he could get even a bit violent. So in that moment, I said, you know what? I'm leaving. And it wasn't the best situation because I had just moved out of one apartment. And I was buying an apartment, but I was buying it and renovating it, and it was going to take some time. So he had invited me to stay with him for a little while. So I was staying at his house. My things were at his house, and all of a sudden I found out, okay, he's violent. And so a codependent whose fear of being alone and who doesn't set boundaries and who's not strong in that situation would just stay and put up with it, right? Or would try to find solutions. But in that moment, I sent my universe a very, very strong message, which was, I'm not going to put up with a violent man ever. Because you know what I did? Even though I didn't actually have a place to live, because buying an apartment takes time and renovating it, even though all my stuff was there, I had a dogs and everything. I called someone right away and said, please come and get me. Please come and get my stuff. I need to get out of here. And I had to go to my mother's house until I found a solution and until my apartment was ready to move into. And so, in that moment, I had to just send this very loud and clear message to my creation, which was no way am I ever going to put up with a partner who's violent with me, physically violent like that, or abusive verbally in the way that he could be. And since then, I've never attracted a physical partner into my life who was violent with me. And so although I've had friends or partners where we could maybe argue or disagree on things, I never attracted anyone since then who actually got physically violent, because this man, he also, when I was packing, he started throwing my bag and my things around, and saying like, get out, get out. It was like, I'm trying to pack my stuff, I'm trying to leave, I was just throwing my stuff around, and that was just a very loud and clear message to my universe, to my creation, that I'm never going to stick around with a man who's violent with me, who would break my things and throw my things, who would call me horrible names, or who would be physically violent. So that's important. It's really important. No matter what situation you're in, do not give your power away to this person, and do not stay there. Once you have that realization in your mind that, okay, this man is not going to change. He has some abusive patterns. You need to just get out of it, of that connection immediately, okay? That's the most important thing. But on a deeper sense, on a deeper level, how to stop attracting these types of men into your life. So here's a basic exercise. I'm going to give you this. You can write this down if you have something to write with. Think of your last few relationships, short or long, with these narcissistic type men, and write down, what did it make me feel? Just ask yourself, go through all of those relationships and ask yourself, what did it make me feel? Okay? Because what it made you feel, that's your point of attraction, right? So if it makes you feel disrespected, then that is what you need to work with. If it makes you feel like you're alone and unsupported, then that is what you need to work with. If it made you feel like you're not good enough, you're not worthy, that's where you need to work. And it's likely all of those. And so in your case, maybe I would advise you to actually stop dating, because you have some codependent issues, which means it would be really healthy for you to let go of the need to date anyone or to be with anyone, to be in your own space and energy. Because also when you're exchanging energies with someone, especially sexually, but also just when you're spending a lot of time with someone, you're getting intertwined with their energies, and their energies are coming on you and your energies are coming on them. And so if you have codependent issues, and if you have a tendency to attract narcissistic partners, it'd be really good to just let go of that whole idea of finding a man, of dating. This fear of, what if I don't find one before I'm old? Or, maybe some women, they want children and they want to find the right man because they're scared they're going to not be able to have children. These types of things that are making you search for a man, right? If you are attracting constantly these men, I would actually just let go of looking for a man and let go of dating. Okay? If there's a divine partner, twin flame, soulmate, something out there for you, he's going to find you and you're going to find him. You're not going to need to go on dates. You're not going to need to go out, partying with the intention of seeing if there are any suitable men out there. You're not going to need, Facebook chatting or dating sites or whatever else people use to find a match. You are just going to need to be with yourself and find that love and respect and connection to yourself within, because that makes you much stronger to walk away from these types of people before it's too late. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any inputs or any questions or anything we should elaborate on this?
No, I think you got around it very greatly. I did stop dating, and I really enjoy being alone, like never before.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoy my own company, and I have never been happier.
Good.
And that's a clear.
Thank you for proving the point before we. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference from before I met my last boyfriend. Then I wasn't happy being alone, but I am now. Very.
That's really important.
Mm,
That's really important.
yeah. So
Because
maybe I'm on my right path.
yeah, because it also makes you stronger. If you have found that peace with being yourself, if you have found that peace with being alone,
Mm.
it's also much easier for you not to attach to someone else. And it's also easier for you to walk away if you can see that, okay, this is not maybe what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the most important part with that is just to write down, what are my points of attraction for these men? And then you just look in your relationships and say, what did I feel? What did they make me feel, about myself? And those are the things you need to work internally within you to attract a man who has the ability to treat you better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I know what it is.
Do you want to share?
It's the lack of feeling worthy.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I told that from my parents.
Yeah. For everyone in this world, nearly.
Mm, that could be one, but I guess there's more to it. So
Yeah.
I'll do the work.
Yeah. And with that one, we have to have patience with ourselves, because to feel worthy is a collective thing, because our whole society, our whole conditioning and parenting and everything has been set up in a, are you worthy or are you not worthy, right? How are you going to win at football? Or are you going to lose at football? Are you going to be the best at class or are you going to be the worst at class? All the time, comparing ourselves to others. It's been ingrained in entrained in our minds. And the way society is set up with our idols, our leaders, our inspiration has been made in a way where it's like celebrities, for example, right? People who have a lot of money to take care of themselves and to do plastic surgeries and all kinds of things, um, people who have all the time and the money to take care of how they look, because how they look is such an important part of their job. And there are all these ridiculous standards that we as a society are forced to look at, and how we've been entrained to think that we must be better, we must be the best, we must be this, we must be that. So comparison is the most important one, to stop comparing yourself. And when you find yourself comparing yourself to others, say, okay, so let's say you see someone, oh, she's much more successful than me, she's much more beautiful than me. Look deeper into her and say, okay, but she's lived a life full of trauma and abuse. She's alone. She's beautiful. She has success, but she's alone. She's alone, and she feels lonely, and she has no family or friends. So always remember that when we compare ourselves to others, be reminded that what you see and what you know of that person potentially is nothing compared to the truth, right? Because it's easy to compare yourself to Jennifer Lopez and say, okay, I'm not so beautiful, but what has Jennifer Lopez been going through in her existence, in her life? Would you really want to be her in the end of the day? And that's where we need to stop the comparison, first of all, because comparison makes us feel unworthy straight away. And you can always find someone who's more beautiful than you, or who has more success than you, or has that dream relationship that you haven't yet found, or who has done this and that and you haven't done this and that, or who's more brave than you, who's more strong than you, all these types of things. And so comparing ourselves with others is the one thing we have to really just stop ourselves. Just stop it. And if you do it anyway, because it's like again a mechanism that most people do, try to find a more easeful way of doing it. So turn that comparison into inspiration. Or turn that comparison into feeling with that person. Say, okay, maybe she's successful and rich, but there's all these things that makes her human as well, that makes her in the same boat as me. Even though I might not have those things, she has a bunch of other things that I don't have. Okay. And so in that way, to understand that all humans have been conditioned to suffer. And so we've all been conditioned with this worthlessness. And working that one out is a really deep topic that can take lifetimes. But in this course, in the monthly modules, a lot of the things that I'm going to be giving you is going to help you with empowering yourself, because it's also with lack of worthlessness also comes lack of self-empowerment. And so empowering yourself is equal to feeling more confident with yourself. Empowering yourself and feeling more confident with yourself is also going to help you to feel more worthy. It's going to help you to do more things in your life that you might hold yourself back from. And so working on empowerment also for everyone, when we have this deep sense of unworthiness, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, I don't deserve love, is the most common traits. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. Do you have anything else to add on that?
No, I don't think so.
Great. Do you have anything, Noah, to add on this subject? Do you have anything to ask or add?
I think it was very inspiring. I'm also I have a theme going on right now with feeling that people don't understand me, that people see something in me that is not my stuff but their stuff, and projecting a lot